Welcome to IndieCapitol. I'm Pamela Nash, and this is Mike Kravinsky with his indie feature comedy film, The Nextnik.
That's right. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Welcome to our studio. I want to ask you about where you came up with this subject matter for this. In The Nextnik, you're dealing with someone who doesn't really know what he wants to do in like the second part of his life. But you talk about in development how people want to go back and follow their childhood dreams. So how did you transition from somebody going back to follow their childhood dreams to someone who just doesn't know what they want to do?
Well, in the case of The Nextnik, I was writing it. I knew that the character Larry had gotten fired and that he was going to search for a new line of work, something that, he was more passionate about, something that he felt as strongly about at that moment that he did when he first started his career when he was in his 20s. I was at the beach, my wife and I were at the beach, and I was writing the last part of the script, but I still hadn't figured out what he was going to do. And, I had all these ideas, but all of them sort of, they sort of seemed somewhat pedestrian. And we were having lunch at a restaurant in Rehoboth, in Delaware, a place called Green Man. And it's kind of a salad quiche kind of place, but it had this long line standing out of it, and when we finally got in and we sat down, we ate, it's like, this is like the best salad I ever had. I mean, this is amazing. And I was like, that's what he's going to do. He's going to do something quirky. He's going to make salads. So I went back and I rewrote a lot of the scenes, did a lot of foreshadowing so we knew what was going to happen, and actually shot the last scene where he discovers what he really likes at Green Man. They were very nice about that. As for choosing a childhood dream, it's not necessarily like a childhood dream per se as, something you may have wanted to do when you were in your 20s. Or like when you first got into college. And for whatever reason, it's not it's not a really financially viable career, or it's not very secure. A lot of people choose to, either take a safer route or take something that, maybe it's not safe, but its outcome would be better financially, more security, things like that. And then in the second part of their lives, after they've, say, put their kids through school and, done everything that they were supposed to do the right way, now revisit something that, may not have been, the smartest career choice in their 20s, but is a terrific choice when they're, when they're older. And I might add, it is not necessarily something that people do when they're in their 50s. A lot of people, they get out of college, particularly lawyers, a lot of lawyers, and they start their careers and they realize that 60-hour work weeks, 70-hour work weeks is just not for them as much as they like it, and they end up doing something else.
Ask me what I do for a day job.
Are you a lawyer?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And
you're exactly right.
And it's funny you should say that, because the character who played Paul, Larry's best friend in The Nextnik, his full Paul Fahrenkopf, he is actually a lawyer for trademark in Alexandria, and that he likes to do acting on the side. And it's just, kind of a fantasy. And, I suspect that at one point, if Paul becomes more successful, the pendulum, as it starts to, maybe become more successful as an actor, he might pursue it full time.
Larry has worked for the same company for 25 years.
This pie chart looks like an egg.
But one day, out of the blue,
Larry, we need to discuss your severance package.
he's fired.
What are you gonna do, Dad?
Well, with a little help from his friends,
Sorry about the job.
Sorry about the job.
I am so sorry about the job. Yeah. 55 is nothing. Why don't you do something you love? Something new.
Larry will try out some new careers.
Do it, baby.
Starting over at 55? Do you really want to go back to square one?
But Larry is determined to find his new calling.
So, have you figured out what you want to do next?
The Nextnik.
So what was your writing process like? You've just spent almost 30 years in the editing suite, and you come out and you say, I think I'll write a screenplay today. How do you get started? How did you do it?
Well, for the writing, I will tell you that, again, another more of a learning curve or changing, former habits. When I was originally writing, the script was probably, for every one page that actually made it into the film, there was actually 2 pages written because I ended up, again, trying to create too much detail, trying to, explain everything that was happening. If a person was going to the store, they were going to the store because they needed this and this and this and this from the store. You don't need to say that. And so when we sat down initially for a table read, I realized it's like now it's starting to sound like an industrial, because there's too much detail, And again, that whole concept of less is more, it's like, the audience, they'll get it. You're going to the store, oh, okay, you're probably going to get milk and eggs, or whatever, And so the trick, I think, is to be able to get your point across or to be able to get your concept out there with as few words as possible, but also with, the actors getting into the part so you feel like you're part of their lives as opposed to being explained something to. So.
How did you feel when you first started writing? Were you telling people all along, I'm writing a script, or did you, you waited? No. So who was the first person that got to know?
My wife, she was there with me, It's like, I had this website and I was doing these stories about people who'd made transitions and not necessarily people in their 50s, or 60s or whatever. There was a good example is Warren Brown, who owns Cake Love in the Washington, D.C. area. Okay. And he was a lawyer. Mm-hmm. But he found that he liked baking more and started Cake Love. But, when I was initially writing, I was saying, well, I'm documenting these people, but I'm really still doing the same thing I always did when I was in news. I'm documenting other people, and I'm not really, exploring things that I want to do, or things that I had always envisioned I wanted to do. And actually, one of my things years ago, back in the early '80s, when I started at ABC, I said, I'm going to do a year here. And then I'm moving to Los Angeles. And, 29 years later, it's a good job. It's a great people, great operation, all that stuff. It was time to move on. And with that, I decided to move on as well with, doing something that I had always kind of fantasized about. Just like Larry. So I just sat down and just started knocking out something, and I think, well, write what you know about. Yeah, well, I know about transitions in life. So let's create a fantasy about that. And there's things in there that you could, I suppose, could be within around my life, but for the most part, because they are coming from me, from my mind. I mean, there are, there's, stretches of the truth. So
now you've got this screenplay, and you know how to edit, but before you can get there, you gotta film this thing. You gotta shoot it. You gotta direct it.
Right.
So, did you get collaborators? Did you hire people? Did you do it all yourself? What was the process? How did you get the script made into the film?
Well, actually, I decided from the beginning that I would do everything that I could do. You know, because I was basically financing this, and it's relatively, by feature film standards, the budget was pretty low, and so I decided that I'll direct it, I'll write it, I'll edit it, I'll produce as much as I can produce, I'll get the locations, I'll hire the actors, I'll do, but I will tell you that the next time around, I'm going to hire people, because it was a lot of work to do, and I would just be wiped at the end of the day. And one of the things I would have liked to have done more is work more with the actors, to get a sense of. Thank God I got these terrific actors. I mean, that really grabbed, and worked pretty independently. It was really great, actually. The things I couldn't do, or the things that I knew that I wouldn't be good at, is I hired a director of photography, Quinn Pack. As a local DP here, and hired a makeup artist. I'm trying to think of what else. That's about it.
So where can we see the Nextnik?
Well, the Nextnik is now on on my website. You can see it on distrify.com, and you can see it. Obviously, you can get to it through the Nextnik's website, nextnik.com. And hopefully, what is it, the end of, probably within the next month or so, it's going to be on Amazon. And at that point, people will be able to sit on their sofas and watch it on TV. And so I'm actually looking forward to that. I mean, because I know that the technology, everybody's watching things on tablets and on phones and stuff like that, but there really is something nice about watching it on a TV on a big comfy sofa. So I'm looking forward for the Amazon posting.
I agree. So check out The Nextnik, indie feature comedy by Mike Kravinsky. And for IndieCapitol, I'm Pamela Nash.